get the help from our brothers and our friends.
We shall rise again.
We've done it before, now we can do it once again.
We shall rise again.
Little bit of help from our family and friends.
A moment of change and now we're spinning. No warning is sent, no reason.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching All Angles. I'm Dion Jax Miller. You know, there have been so many ways in which Hurricane Melissa has impacted the island. We're going to be telling those stories for months and years to come. Right now, one of the imperatives facing the country is how do we get our children back in school? That's what we're talking about for this segment of the program. Well, I should say for today's program. And we're going to be joined in studio. We are joined in studio by the president of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Linvern Wright. He's also principal of William Nib, which suffered quite a bit of damage, and president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mark Malava, with us, the principal of Yalas High School. If I call Mr. Wright a president instead of a principal there, I apologize. And joining us in Zoom, we're going to be having the opposition spokesperson on education, Damian Crawford. Before we go to our guests, though, Kemon White has this overview.
Across hundreds of schools after Hurricane Melissa barreled through the island 2 weeks ago, leaving a trail of devastation. The storm tore through classrooms, dormitories, and staff quarters, destroying vital teaching tools and blocking key access roads. Official reports indicate that well over 600 institutions, from infant to tertiary, have been damaged. Most of the worst affected schools are in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, Manchester, St. James, Trelawney, and St. Anne. Schools like Stets, Monroe College, Hampton, William Nib, and Cornwall College were among those hardest hit. Principal of Stets, Keith Wellington, told our news team after the hurricane that the road to recovery will be long.
Even if we have all the resources that we need available, will take months, literally months, maybe 8 months, if we have all the resources available. We know that that is not the case. We do not have all the resources that are required. We are hoping that we will eventually be able to get as much support to garner all the resources, but that is also going to take time. So I would think that it is going to be anywhere between 8 to 12 months before we are back to normality.
The Mannings School in Westmoreland, the oldest high school in Jamaica, also suffered severe damage. When the All Angles team visited last week, roofs were gone, windows shattered, and downed power lines stretched across the compound. The school's oldest existing structure, the Thomas Manning Building, has been transformed into a pile of rubble.
When we look out here, it's a big fog, and then it's a building that's demolished right down.
Education Minister Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon gave an update on the way forward for the education sector at a press conference on Tuesday.
What I'm most concerned about are our children who have exams. So those who are doing PEP, those who have CSEC and CAPE. And so we're going to have to work through how we can give additional support, even in the holidays, for those children. So that's a very important consideration for us.
The Education Ministry warns that the repair bill will be enormous, and while some schools have reopened, many others have not. Reporting for All Angles, I'm Kemon White.
Thank you so much for that, Kemon. And a reminder that you can WhatsApp us, 876-254-0693, 876-254-0693. Give us your first name, give us your general location. And I have to first ask Linvern Wright, how you and your school doing? Because you're the head of this association, so you have this national position, but at the same time, NIB suffered some really bad damage.
I don't know if Melissa felt that it had to make an example of me, to represent what is happening with other persons. But we have been really seriously devastated. Of maybe about 7 buildings, 6 have been damaged, seriously damaged. And as I heard Keith saying on the program, it will be a long way to recover because it is windows out, roofs off on different buildings, and just so many things to do to get things back up.
So when you went out there first, when you first saw the school after the hurricane, what were your thoughts?
Well, I actually watched it happening.
What?
In fact, I watched the principal's office first and the whole admin block. library.
Oh, you live adjacent?
Well, I stayed there to go to work, right? So, it was one of those experiences. Really just looking there more stupefied than horrified, because I was just saying, all of this is happening before my eyes, and then I thought of school and what ought to happen. But then when it happened, I mean, by the night, we just did what we could and toured the community as much as we could, and then in the morning we really looked at things.
So when we're talking about getting children back to school, for your school, what does that mean?
Well, we're doing a cleanup and an assessment of things. I met my staff, and because there are just some things that because the downstairs of my school is I wouldn't say okay, but if it is that we're trying to get back some students in, it could accommodate some persons.
Habitable.
Right, but the thing that we don't want to do is that, so we have to think of different ways to get this happening. Is either we're looking at shift, or we're looking at getting some in on a kind of phased basis to get everybody getting something, because COVID taught us that when the students stayed out with a grade 7 to 11, because we have a mentality to think that only the exam students, but learning is something that takes place in stages, and if they don't get it early, then it affects them, as we're seeing happening with mathematics and those subjects now, because we had them out and so significant gaps exist. I think what most of us as principals don't want to do, while we want to give the examination students their due, given that their moment is close, I think we also don't want to think that we're leaving the other students out simply because they don't have exams, because their moment will come. And learning is not just about immediacy, it's about over a long period to try to get some things in.
And one of the things we had heard after COVID, the teachers were saying just the fact that they were out of the classroom so long, the socialization issue, the discipline, the being able to sit and function in a classroom, right, that you lost a lot. We lost a lot.
Well, and it's one of the things that, I mean, any principal can tell you what their maybe about grade 7 to 9s now were like in grade 7. Really just people that, I mean, and it's not really describing them in any derogatory way, but just a kind of wildness that it just had many teachers aghast. And too often we think about education just in terms of CXE. The truth is that given the kind of things we see happening in society now in terms of the, how people work with things psychosocially and what is happening in terms of attitudes, school seems to be the only constant in many of these students' lives in terms of those things that will discipline them towards some of those things that are socially acceptable. And if they stay out too long in spaces where there's no structure, there's going to be a problem. And so many of us as principals are concerned about bringing them all back as soon as possible. So it's something we're working towards. As I said, once we get things cleaned up, we can do some assessment and see what models we can use to get them in. At least in that way, COVID was an advantage. Okay, well, we'll pick up on that and get some more thoughts when we come back. Remember our WhatsApp line, it's 876-254-0693. Soon come.